In this video, we're going to practice the chain rule. Remember that when you think of the chain rule, you want to think about the derivative of a function equaling the derivative of the outside times the derivative of the inside. So derivative of out times derivative of in. And you can also think about it more formally as if f of x is g of h of x, then f prime of x is g prime of h of x. So this is the outside derivative part. Multiplied by h prime of x. And this is the inside derivative part. Okay, so let's get into some practice problems. So the first one is going to be f of x equals x squared plus 2x plus 1 quantity squared. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is solve it in this kind of informal method. And then the second thing is going to be solving it with the formal method. So over here in our thought bubble on the side, we're going to think that we have x squared plus 2x plus 1 squared. But we are going to ignore what's inside. We're going to cross it out. And we're just going to think that we have something squared. And what does the derivative of that look like? It looks like 2 times something to the 1, right? This is the derivative of the outside. Okay, so f prime of x, going to have 2 times something to the 1, and the something is unchanged. It's just that x squared plus 2x plus 1, right? And we multiply that by the derivative of the inside, the derivative of x squared plus 2x plus 1. That is power rule, right? 2x plus 2. So the derivative is 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 2. Okay? That is the simple method. That's the informal, think in your thought bubble, cross out the inside method. Okay? Now, let's do the formal method. Let's write it out like this. Okay? So, let's do that below. So the first step would be to identify the outside and the inside. Okay, so the outside we're going to call g of x. What is the outside function? It's x squared. Okay? And then we identify the inside. That is what's inside. We're going to call that h of x, and that's going to be x squared plus 2x plus 1. Okay? Then we can write f of x as g of h of x. Okay? If this is confusing, just plug in h of x and then check for yourself that we do get back f of x. Okay, so we can write f of x like this. That means that the derivative looks like this. Okay, so we need g prime of h of x. Well, if g of x equals x squared, that means that g prime of x is 2x. So if we plug in h of x, we get 2 times x squared plus 2x plus 1. Right? G prime of x is 2x. G prime of h of x is 2 times h of x. Okay? Then h prime of x is 2x plus 2. Okay? So f prime of x is g prime of h of x times h prime of x. Now we plug in g prime of h of x times h prime of x. Okay, so same answer. A good deal more work though. Let's do another practice problem. For this one, we're going to have f of x equals sine of x squared. Okay, so let's do the thought bubble method. Okay, so we have sine of x squared, but we don't care about what's inside. We just have sine of something. The derivative of that is cosine of something. So f prime of x is the derivative of the outside. That's cosine of something. Something is unchanged, it's x squared. And the derivative of the inside is 2 times x. Okay, so that is the answer. F prime of x is cosine of x squared times 2x. Okay, pretty quick. Let's do the long method. Okay, so we want to find out the outside and the inside. Okay, so the outside function, g of x, what's outside? What's the last thing that happens? Sine of x. Inside, what's the first thing that happens? X squared. Okay? We can write f of x as g of h of x. So we can use this. What is g prime of x? The derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. So g prime of h of x is cosine of h of x, which is cosine of x squared, right? H of x is x squared. Okay? And we need h prime of x. That's just 2x, right? So f prime of x is g prime of h of x multiplied by h prime of x. That's going to be cosine of x squared times 2x, right? Same answer once more. This is a lot quicker, but if this makes more sense, you can use this too. One more example. Here we're going to have f of x equals e to the sine of x. Okay? So first method, what's the outside function? It's e, right? So we have e to the something. Cross that out. Something is there. The derivative of that is e to the something. Okay, so f prime of x is e to the sine of x multiplied by the derivative of the inside. The derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. Okay. That's the answer. Now let's go through and use the long method. So outside and inside. The outside function is g of x equals e to the x. And the inside function is h of x equals sine of x. Okay, so f of x equals g of h of x. And we need two pieces. We need g prime of h of x, and we need h prime of x. Okay, so g prime of h of x. First we take g prime of x. The derivative of e to the x is e to the x. So then g prime of h of x is equal to e to the h of x, and that is equal to e to the sine of x. Okay? And h prime of x, the derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. We have our two pieces, so f prime of x equals g prime of h of x multiplied by h prime of x. That is e to the sine of x multiplied by cosine of x. Okay, once more, same answer.